And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Welcome to the show. My name is Al Gordon, and as always, I'm working on your financial freedom. And last week, I made a decision, at least my body made a decision, that it was not going to work at all. It did. My body decided that it was going to do its own thing. I'm talking about the fact that at Lifestyles Unlimited, we evaluate our lives based on 7 standards. The first one is spirituality. The next one is legacy, family, growth, fun, health, and wealth. And I was tracking like level 5 in all 7 of those areas. I'm tracking what I think is a level 5 in all those areas. And I get to Wednesday. And all of a sudden, the health component decided that it was going to take me on Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. I'll tell you what, for all you medical people out there, HIPAA doesn't apply because I'm talking about my own personal health. So here's what happened. Wednesday, I have a routine lab appointment. It's routine. My doctor wants me to go in and get labs because I'm being treated for several different things. I've got some issues that are lingering from my time in the military, and I have to deal with those things. So I go to the lab. I'm figuring, this is a pretty easy day because all I have to really do after I give my blood is I have to go to another medical appointment because I'm having problems with one of the surgeries that I had on my left shoulder. Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, I've had a lot of surgeries. I recently, just over the last year, had reconstruction surgery on my right shoulder and my left shoulder, and my left shoulder's giving me some problems. So I'm thinking, okay, no problem. I'll go ahead and give my blood, and then I will go to my doctor's appointments in the same hospital, and I'll meet with the ortho surgeon, and we'll talk about what's going on with my left shoulder. So I get blood, everything's fine. I go get a cup of coffee because, got to have some coffee after giving blood, right? And it was a fasting lab, so, I'm kind of hungry, and I happen to have a Cliff Bar in my pocket. So I'm munching on my Cliff Bar, drinking my coffee, and then I go down to the orthopedic surgeon's office. And I'm sitting in the waiting room, and I'm thinking, everything is fine. Not a terrible day for Al, right? Everything is just kind of going along as it's supposed to go along. And even though I got to sit in a waiting room and wait, I'm willing to do it because I'm going to get some answers on what's going on with my left shoulder. So I go into the doctor's office, and they take your blood, or not take your blood, but they take your blood pressure readings, right? They do all the workup stuff. So they do all that stuff, and I'm sitting there waiting for the doc to come in, and I get a phone call, and it's a phone call from my primary care physician's office. Now, I don't know about you, but I rarely, if ever, get a phone call from my primary care physician's office. Do you? I mean, I don't normally get, unless they're trying to collect a bill, right? Right. Then they're all over you. But I get this call and I'm like, what's this all about? So I answer the phone, and it's one of the nurses for my doctor. And she's like, Mr. Gordon? Yes, I'm Mr. Gordon. She says, you need to go to the ER. And I'm like, what? What are you talking? Do you got the right Mr. Gordon? She says, yeah, this is Albert Gordon, right? And I'm like, yeah, we did the whole authentication thing. I'm that guy. What do you mean I need to go to the ER? She said, well, we got results from your blood tests that you took this morning. And I'm like, I just took that test like an hour ago. How is it you've got results already? Because I use the military medical system, and usually it takes days, but apparently they've made some changes to that system, and they can get the results literally in like an hour. So she says, you need to go to the ER. And I go, why do I have to go to the ER? She said, because your red blood cell count is at critical levels. And I said, critical levels? I mean, I'm feeling okay. It's not like I'm feeling terrible. What do you mean they're at critical levels? Explain to me what's going on. She says, the rating, now this is the scale they use. Now your doctor may use a different scale, so when I give you these numbers, they may not make any sense to you. But here's what she told me. She said, for a white male your age, your red cell count should be at like 13.5. You're at a 6. And I said, okay, well, I'm a 6. What's so bad about that? She says, 7.5 is the cutoff for critical. If you get below 7.5, you're in danger of having all kinds of problems happen to you. And all the medical people out there going, oh, Al, you better pay attention. Well, I guess I got to tell you what happened at the orthopedist's office, don't I? Because it's kind of part of the story. It's part of what's going on in my life. So I meet with the orthopedic surgeon, and they tell me I have additional tearing in my left rotator cuff in the suprascapula area. And I know exactly when it happened. When I was going through my recovery, the recovery for the surgery was you have to literally spend the first 3 weeks sleeping in a recliner because they don't want you moving around and doing stuff like that. And then you can finally get into bed, but you have to wear the sling while you're sleeping for another 3 weeks. So I got through the initial 3-week period. I did the second 3-week period of sleeping in my bed with the sling on. And then after 6 weeks, they allowed me to finally take the sling off and I could sleep in the bed. Well, I remember after I had taken the sling off, I was sleeping one night and I was rolling over and I put like all of my weight on my left elbow as I'm rolling over. And I felt this popping, this major popping feeling in my left shoulder. So I know that's probably when I damaged it. And the surgeon was qualifying for me that, yeah, you got problems. So we're probably going to have to go back in there and do some repair work. So I'm kind of like, I'm already bummed out because let me just frame it for you. I had the surgery on the left shoulder December of last year. It was literally before Christmas. I spent Christmas recovering from surgery. And then I had the surgery on the right shoulder, which so far has been just fine. Okay, I had that surgery in May of this year. And now I'm at the period where I'm at the back end of all these surgeries, all the recovery, all the physical therapy, and now I am being told that I've got a setback. And the problem with the setback is it's another 6-month surgery and recovery process. So I'm kind of like, I'm already bummed out about that, right? So I make my way down to the emergency room. Now keep in mind, all of these facilities are in one building. Okay, I'm at what's called the Brooke Army Medical Center. It's in San Antonio, Texas. It is a state-of-the-art teaching hospital for the military, for military medical services, and I get great care there. I really do. So it's my go-to place. So I go there, and I go to the ER, right? So I'm sitting in the ER, and I realize my wife has no idea what's going on. I have just had 2 doses of bad news. And my wife has no idea what's going on. All she knows is that I got up early in the morning to go to the doctor to get my blood done. I mean, that's what's on the schedule in a follow-up appointment, right? And I'm supposed to be coming home, and it's supposed to be like, the rest of the week is a normal week, right? Well, that's not the way it worked out. So I'm sitting in the ER room, and I've got my phone in my hand, and I'm like, man, I don't want to make this call because I don't even know how to tell my wife that I'm in the ER and I may not be coming home today, right? So, I did what any courageous man does when he's willing to confront his wife about bad information. I just picked up the phone and called her. Yeah, I did. And she said, hi. And I said, hey, babe, how you doing? She says, oh, I'm great. I'm having a great day. And I'm like, I'm not. She's like, why? What's going on? I'm like, well, I'm in the ER. And she's like, what? I said, yeah, I'm in the ER. So I spill the beans. I tell her what has happened to me. And she's like, are you going to be okay? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I have no idea yet because I'm just sitting in the waiting room. I don't know what's really going on. I explained to her my blood count situation and the fact that I was told to go to the ER. And then I gave her the information about my left shoulder. She's going, man, you're having a bad day. And I said, yeah, I'm having a bad day. So I get admitted to the ER. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to figure out what's going on. Now, what they've determined is that I've got some kind of internal bleeding going on. So they've got to do some tests. They've got to do some exploratory stuff to check out what's going on with my body. In the ER, it was a hurry up and wait situation. They decided what they were going to do is they were going to give me some blood to help replace the red blood cells that I had in my system. And they gave me a unit of blood, and I felt a little bit better. I could feel the red blood cells actually affecting my body. So I'm feeling better, right? And then they're like, well, we need to admit you to the hospital. And I'm like, wait a minute, just a minute ago, you were talking about letting me go, and I just follow up my PCM. And they said, yeah, we're concerned about the internal bleeding. We haven't been able to figure out where the internal bleeding is coming from. We're concerned about your low blood count, so we're going to admit you to the hospital. Number 3 hits. You know, it all comes in threes, right? All bad news comes in 3. Well, there was my third dose of bad news. You're going into the hospital. So I go into the hospital, and I'm in the hospital. They give me some more blood in the hospital, and they do a procedure on me to find out where the internal bleeding is coming from. They isolate where they believe the internal bleeding is coming from. They cauterize a couple of spots that they figured were problematic, and I get done with the procedure. Most of you know what the procedure is. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's one of these procedures that everybody should get when they turn 50. Yeah, does that help you? Okay, so that's what they did to me. And so they did the procedure. They cauterized a couple of things that were problematic, and then they came back and they said, look, you still got some problems with your tissue. You might need some follow-on surgery. You might need a follow-on procedure. But what we're going to do is we're going to give you a little bit of iron. So they gave me an iron infusion, and we're going to let you go home. So let me just shape how my week went. Wednesday morning, I thought I was just going in for a blood test and going in for a follow-up on a surgery, and it all turned bad. And I went into the hospital, and I stayed in the hospital until Friday afternoon when they finally let me out. Now, why do I bring this up? Why do I spend the entire first half of the show talking to you about my health? Because if everything isn't correct in your life and your health turns south on you, you might have a huge problem. You might have a major problem. Now, one of the things that I know that went through my wife's mind was, if he doesn't come back from this hospital visit, what happens to me? What happens to me? And what I'm getting at is that I have done some things with estate planning. I have done some things with my household that have made it convenient for my wife that if I had not come back from that hospital visit, if everything had gone terribly bad for me, and we were going to my funeral now, would my wife be okay? And here's the result. I'm going to grade myself a C+. I am. I'm going to grade myself a C+. And here's why I'm going to grade myself a C+. I haven't been able to do some of the things that I still have on my to-do list that affect my estate. So I've got to get to affecting those things that I need to do to affect my estate to make sure that if I die, my household's going to be okay. So what am I worried about? What specifically am I worried about? Am I worried about my real estate? Nope. Not worried about my real estate, because my real estate is all set up that if I die, my wife becomes the inheritor of my real estate. The problem is with what I used to do to obtain a pension. That's the big problem. When we come back from the break, I'll explain it to you. Stick around.
The Lifestyles Unlimited team of real estate investing mentors and educators want to meet you. Learn to retire in 5 years or less. Text the word radio to 88007. That's radio to 88007. Join for just $297. Lifestyles Unlimited.
Creating the lifestyle you've always wanted. You're hearing Lifestyles Unlimited's Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome back to the second half of the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. My name is Al Gordon, and as always, I'm working on your financial freedom. But I will tell you that I had an opportunity to sit in a hospital room for about, call it 2.5 days, and think about my financial freedom. When you go to the hospital, you start worrying about stuff. You do. And here's the thing. You're in an isolated place. You're connected to devices. You've got an IV in one arm. You've got an IV in the other arm. I had 2 IVs in. So I'm connected to machines. I've got a blood pressure cuff on. I've got something on my finger that senses my oxygen. It's not like I can get up and walk away. It's kind of like being in prison. Not that I've been in prison, but it's probably the closest thing to being in prison in my mind's eye. So while you're stuck there in prison, the first thing you want to do is you want to grab that TV that they've got in the room, and you want to turn it on, right? So what did I do? I turned on that TV. You know what I've realized? That TV didn't have any sound. It had no sound. So now I'm sitting in a hospital room, and here, I'll make it even better. I had a roommate. Yeah, had a roommate. Now, my roommate was a super sweet guy. He was in his 70s. He was in there recovering from some type of surgery that he had, and he was just looking to go home. But his TV, it had sound. So what drove me bananas was that he was watching. Now, he's a bilingual guy, so he's watching a channel where half of the audio is coming in English and half of the audio is coming in Spanish. And it was driving me bananas. Now, I know enough Spanish to be dangerous. I'm not fluent in Spanish, but I know enough to be dangerous. So I could listen to part of the sounds coming out of his TV, and I was only picking up enough to understand just enough, and it was driving me nuts. So I was like, oh, what am I going to do? Right? Because I don't have any headphones. I don't have anything. I can't cancel out the noise. I got to listen to his TV because my TV doesn't make any noise. So I'm sitting there going, well, this is a fine mess I've gotten myself into. What shall I do? So I started thinking, well, what if I die? What happens if I die? What happens to my estate? What happens to the real estate? The real estate is dialed in. The real estate is set up so that if I die, my wife takes full control of all the real estate. It is a seamless process. So how did I do that? The way I did it was that we're invested in multifamily assets as an LLC. Within the LLC paperwork, it clearly states that if one of us or both of us perish, there is a lineage plan, a survivor's plan. In other words, if I die, my wife takes 100% control over the LLC and all of the assets controlled by the LLC. Now, she's going to have to do some paperwork with the investments that we have to basically take me off. But at the end of the day, we don't have to probate this thing. It's kind of a neat process. The other thing that we have done is that for the single family assets that we still hold, and the only one that I still hold is my principal residence. We own that asset as joint tenancy with right of survivorship, meaning if I die, she takes over 100% of the asset by herself. Now, what would happen? What would happen if both of us perished? Let's say both of us were going to a concert and we got hit by some drunk driver and we both passed away in our vehicle. What would happen? Well, my son, Jonathan, who is a Lifestyles Unlimited member, he's a league qualified member. He's a passive investor himself. He's done all of the real estate investing that we've done as Lifestyles Unlimited members, and he is a part of our LLC. If Tina and I were to die, the LLC is constructed to where Jonathan steps in as the new managing member. Kind of cool, huh? And we're able to do that within the constructs of the LLC because the LLC owns the assets, but we control and own the LLC. We can do things within the LLC to identify certain key parties. Does that make sense? So that's kind of what we've done. Now, when it comes to our single family house, if both of us were to die, I do have a slight problem because Jonathan is not on the deed. So what I have to do is I've got to get with my attorney people and I have to figure out what is the best possible path forward should Tina and I die with regards to our principal residence. Because what we don't want to have done is we don't want the principal residence to get caught up in litigation in the form of probate, and we don't want all of the money, all of the equity that's in the asset to be sucked out through attorney's fees and court costs while we try and remedy that situation. Now, obviously, I wouldn't be here trying to remedy the situation because I'd be dead, right? But my son would be dealing with that. So that was a big wake-up call for me to realize that, okay, I still have a problem with one piece of my real estate. So I've got to figure out how to get that done. The good news is I know some really great attorneys that are a part of the Lifestyles Unlimited vendor marketplace, and I will be able to lean on them, and they'll be able to do for me what I need to have done to fix that little piece of my retirement nest egg, if you will. But there's a bigger problem. There is a bigger problem. And the problem has to do with my pensions. I have I technically have two pensions that I earned. I earned one from the military, and then I earned one from municipal government when I worked for municipal government for about 3.5 years after leaving the military. And both of those pensions have something called a survivor benefit plan, meaning if I die, that my survivor, my wife in that case, takes over the pension. And if by chance both of us die, that pension goes to my heirs. But the problem with the pensions is that if I die, everything goes to Tina. If Tina and I die, big problem because nothing goes to my heirs. The pensions are not transferable to my children. So this is income that I receive today that's not part of my legacy plan going forward. This is something that I cannot transfer to my family. And that bothers me a little bit. There's another problem. The pensions themselves, because of the survivor benefit clause, for whatever reason, and I pay money every month for this survivor benefit clause, if I die, the pensions only pay about 55% of what I'm currently earning now. So effectively what they say is that, okay, well, one person died, so 45% of your costs must have gone away. And that's not true. That's what happens to my pension if I die. Had I died last week, my wife would be dealing with trying to live off of less money. Now, fortunately for us, we have resolved that problem. We own residential income-producing real estate that is producing cash flow that is augmenting that particular potential loss. So in other words, if I were to die, Tina would be okay financially. She would still take that haircut, but she would still be okay financially because we've done the math. But here's the point I want to make. I'm not happy with the current situation. I had 60 hours, count them, 60 hours to think about my financial situation, and I wasn't happy with the outcome. So one of the things that I've resolved to do is that I've resolved to fix that problem. Now, one of the ways I can fix that problem is I can just continue to do what I'm doing. As a potential lead investor, as what we call an aspiring lead in Lifestyles Unlimited, I am on the hunt for an asset that is going to provide income for us that will offset that potential loss. I don't think that I'm going to die. I've had plenty of brushes with death in my life, but I don't think my time is now, and I don't think my time is in the near future. What about you? What about your current situation? You're thinking about what I've been talking to you about. Maybe you've got similar situations in your life. I don't know what you've got. I really don't know what your death plan is. But my point is, you got to have one. Because if you don't have a death plan, death will do the planning for you. Now, let me just share with you what I think the potential income loss will be should I die tomorrow and the pensions go down to 55% of what they're making. I believe that I would have to replace about $2,400 in income. That's the amount of money that would go away. Now, can Tina survive on $2,400 less of income if I die? The answer is yes. Is it going to suck? It's going to suck. Yeah, I'm using that technical term. It's going to be really bad. But I don't think it's going to be really bad to where she's going to have to go get food stamps or anything like that. Okay, what it's going to mean is she's not going to be able to vacation as much as she wants to do. She's not going to be able to travel as much as she wants to do. But here's the thing. Tina is a Lifestyles Unlimited member. She knows how to invest in real estate. All she needs to do is get into her comfort zone. Maybe single family is the way she wants to go. And if so, and I know she likes single family. She does like single family. She likes multifamily a little bit more, but I don't think that she wants to be necessarily the multifamily investor. I think she likes single family more. So ironically, over the weekend, we had a financial freedom seminar. That's the 16-hour class that everybody who becomes a member of Lifestyles Unlimited goes through. And in that class, Chris Wyatt, one of our life changers, was pointing out that you can buy assets in today's market. He was showing the class how to buy single family assets, even if you don't know how to do it. And what they were doing was they were looking at the multiple listing service, and they found a particular asset that makes a lot of sense for them. This particular asset can be bought for $160,000, but it's worth $245,000 all fixed up. Now, rehab-wise, And closing cost wise, you're going to need close to $50,000. But here's the neat thing. The cash out of pocket on this asset was only $16,000. That represents a 6.5 cents per dollar on the dollar, 6.5 cents on the dollar purchase price. You're buying an asset that's worth $245,000 for $16,000. I think that's pretty amazing. It's really amazing. It's even more amazing when you realize that this asset that they found, it captures equity of $36,000. $36,000. That means that effectively, if they were to buy the asset for $160,000 and spend about $50,000 on rehab and closing costs, they would be into this asset for right around $210,000. But they've got about $36,000 in net equity. That is a 225% return on investment just on the capital gain. Let me explain it to you. Remember, they put $16,000 of their own money into the asset. They're capturing an additional $36,000 of equity, an additional $36,000. That means their total equity is $52,000 in this asset. What kind of investment can you make today where you can take $16,000, buy an asset, rehabilitate the asset, do the things that need to be done to the asset to bring back its glory days, put that asset back into service as clean, functional workforce housing. And as a result of that, you attract the best people in the marketplace to rent from you because you've got the best product on the marketplace and people want to rent that kind of product. So they rent that product from you and you're making incredible gains on the equity. Pretty cool stuff. Cash flow. What about the cash flow on this asset? What did they calculate the cash flow to be? Well, when the dust all settled, when they figured out what they could rent the property for, and they figured out what their expenses were for operating the property, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, don't need to worry about maintenance because you've rehabbed the entire property. That's one of the things we'll teach you to do when you become a Lifestyles Unlimited member. It's part of the roadmap. It's part of the plan. It's part of what we teach you. But at the end of the day, the cash flow on this asset is $313. $313 per month. Now, some of you are going, wow, $313 per month. That doesn't seem like a big, ginormous number. But let's think about that $313 per month. What could that $313 per month pay for in your household? Could it pay for your car payment? Could it pay for your insurance payment? Could it pay for both of those payments? It's additional income that will be coming into your household that you're not trading time for money for. Does that make sense? So when you annualize that $313, it becomes $3,756. That's a $3,700 a year raise for you. When's the last time your boss gave you a $3,700 a year raise? And you don't need your boss to do it for you. Because you can take $16,000, you can buy this asset. And with this asset, you can make an annual cash flow of $3,700. You want to know what the return on investment is? Check it out. 23.5%. 3.5%. Now, how did I get that? What I did was I took the annual cash flow number of $3,756. I divided it by the amount of money that we injected into the deal, the $16,000 of our physical cash that we put into the deal. And I got a cash-on-cash return of 23.5% return on investment. What are you investing in now that's giving you 23.5% return on investment? Not a lot of stuff out there, is there? Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, wow, I'm in the stock market. Am I getting 23.48% return on investment in the stock market? And what you have to do is you have to do a little research and determine what the annual rate of return is for the stock market. Don't just go based on what you've been able to get over the last 6 months or 9 months or 12 months or whatever you're looking at. Look at the actual historical return of the stock market, and you'll find that that number is much lower than 23.48%. In addition to that 23.48%, or we'll round it up, we'll call it 23.5%, you're getting a 225% return on capital gain because remember, you put $16,000 into the deal and you obtained an additional $36,000 in equity. That is a return on capital gain of 225%. And that's just two of the ways we make money in real estate. Just two of the ways. If you owned and operated this asset for 1 year, my expectation is that you will get a return on investment of about 248%. Now that can solve my problem If you want to do what I'm doing, you want to do what the 50,000 members of Lifestyles Unlimited are doing. Go to lifestylesunlimited.com, sign up for that free workshop, and let's get you going.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.